Hi there. Normally, I like to do something that I consider reasonably well articulated, full of subtle suggestions to ease people into one of my videos. Maybe a nice description of what a subject looks like from a certain perspective, or some kind of pointed remark about an issue we're facing as a society. But since I used the title I did for this video, I'm just going to get into it. Is Will Smith mentally ill? And the answer to that is maybe. But nothing he's ever done in the public view would really lead a professional to come to that conclusion, and what went down at the Oscars doesn't change that. Originally, I was gonna take a break from writing scripts for a couple of weeks while I try to kick my smoking habit. I'm a bit agitated right now, but I keep seeing people making the claims that he is mentally ill. So, as mental health is kind of the de facto subject this channel addresses, I'm gonna tackle that real quick, and then immediately segue into what the real problem here actually is. And keep in mind, like those who are suggesting that Will Smith's mental health is in question, I'm approaching this from the point of view of what happened at the Oscars wasn't completely fake to begin with. Alright, so there's this thing. It's been with us since the dawn of our species. It's allowed countless human dramas to play out, and has been the inspiration for even more works of fiction which have moved us in an untold number of profoundly emotional ways. It's this magical thing called basic human behavior. It isn't perfect by a stretch of the imagination. It's led us to everything from legendary acts of generosity and love to abject misery and cruelty, along with everything in between. Basic human behavior isn't always pretty. It isn't always appropriate, and often isn't something that everyone is going to agree on. It's a multifaceted concept that, when witnessed, makes us question how we would respond in similar circumstances, and has historically helped people to grow as individuals, learning lessons even when the situation in question isn't one that you've personally experienced yet. When someone says something funny, our first impulse is to laugh. When we see something sad, we might cry. When someone makes us angry, we tend to respond in kind. Nothing about that reality is clean, and no matter how much our modern society wants it, we will never be able to sanitize human interaction. The best we can do is try to be upstanding people, and if we ever fall short, we pick ourselves up, grow, and try harder next time. The dividing line between falling short as a moral, upstanding citizen and mental illness in this context is that Will Smith hasn't displayed any sort of negative pattern when it comes to functioning in social, familial, or work settings. After 53 years on this planet, the only objectively bad thing he's done, save for passing on a leading role in the Matrix movies, was slapping the piss out of a guy who had just told a questionable joke about his wife, which is something that a lot of people can relate to for better or for worse. His actions didn't come out of left field. They weren't unprovoked or poorly understood. Even the most rational, healthy mind comprehends what he did and why he did it. So no, based exclusively on what Will Smith did at the Oscars, that is not any kind of basis to label him as mentally ill. And I'm sitting here wondering why people who clearly comprehend what he did and why he did it are throwing the term around so freely. I did say I was going to segue into what I felt like the real issue here is. So if you're one of those people who's throwing around the notion that he is mentally ill, it might be time for you to tune out, because if you want to keep feeling good about yourself, the biggest problem with this entire situation is you. What happened at the Oscars was that some comedian told a joke that pissed someone off. Someone slapped said comedian. The beef was resolved later that same night, and yes, I too find it messed up that Smith wasn't escorted out, but that's not what the subject here is. That's not what the title of this video is, so don't pretend like that's what was on your mind when you clicked on it. Anyways, it isn't like Smith savagely beat old dude with a chair or something. He slapped him. It wasn't the most appropriate thing he could have done, obviously, but that's life. You can't just gloss over all of the things which don't fit neatly into your box of sensibilities. If people could do that, I would be able to stop you from trivializing the mental health issues that I and most of the people who watch my channel deal with. And that's what you most certainly are doing by comparing an understandable, albeit inappropriate, reaction to a concept which millions suffer from every single day. You want to claim that Smith's actions are those of an immature individual? Fine, I'm not going to argue with you, I don't condone violence. But I am going to point out that there are plenty of people without any diagnosable mental health issues that have some profound issues with maturity. Maturity is not the sole dominion of the mentally stable, and a lack thereof is not the inheritance of the clinically unwell. Breaking this down, believing that Will Smith acted wrong because violence is never the answer is a moral position, not a clinical one. Believing he's mentally ill because you think his reaction wasn't proportionate to the offense is a subjective take based on your own emotional stance on a situation which hasn't, doesn't, and will never in a million years directly involve you, and may boil down to your own inability to empathize with him, which may or may not say good things about your own mental health. That's pretty much all I really have to say on this subject, so I'll just summarize. 1. Slapping the piss off someone who insulted your spouse falls in line with basic human behavior. There was a time not too terribly long ago, I feel like, where this was commonly understood. 2. Taking one immature action which didn't lead to any lasting repercussions for anyone directly involved doesn't even begin to suggest mental illness. Please open a damn book before you start throwing terms around that you clearly don't understand. And 3. Suggesting otherwise and pretending like you're doing so from a place of care and consideration is undoubtedly insulting to a good portion of people who deal with actual mental illness day in, day out, myself included. So yeah, that's all. Until next time.